Okay, well, let's go, I guess.
All right.
The recording's on now, so kicking off our first office hours for Buildable. I would say thank you for joining, but obviously this is our first one that we're getting rolling, and don't have a lot of customers joining yet, but we wanted to get these started. Every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be holding these office hours for with the Buildable team and any customers, prospective customers, anybody that would like to join. Um, wanted to do a few things on these calls each week. We will be talking about some of the upcoming features, some of the things that we're working on for Buildable. We'll be addressing, questions from anyone that joins in, any questions that we've received since the last Buildable office hours. Outside of that, we'll be demoing how Buildable, how you can build apps in Buildable, how we're already using Buildable internally for the team to further develop the product. And yeah, that's going to be the gist every week for Thursdays at 2 p.m. I think first off, since this is our first one, I just kind of do, introduction here a little bit. So my name is Justin Lapier, and I am the CEO of Buildable. My background is in software development, and I've been in the software consulting space for years, working directly with businesses to develop custom business solutions for them. And me and my team, we've seen what's out there on the market, what exists, what customers need from speaking directly with them. And, we decided 2 years ago to go out and build our own product, Buildable, that aligned with a lot of the asks that our customers have had in the past. So that's me. We also have on the call George Hambel, who's head of product with Buildable. And if George, you want to go ahead and kind of give yourself do your intro?
Well, my intro.
Yeah.
I've been working with Justin for, gosh, what, four plus years now, building software solutions. And like he said, found or just noticed kind of I would say a gap in the market, but a need for a tool like Buildable. So we all put our heads together and said, let's do this.
And then we also have James Olson, who's on the call, who works in operations for Buildable. James, you want to do an intro?
Yeah, sure. James Olson here. I'm in my 5th year in software development, and I've known Justin for a long time. I've got a strong background in math, business, and problem solving.
Yeah, he's our chief tester right now when we do new deployments and new updates to the product. So James has been killing it. So before we get into like demoing and stuff, I wanted to kick it over to George and let George talk a little bit about some of the upcoming things that we're working on right now, any possible bugs that we're dealing with, and just want to use these office hours as total transparency of issues we're running into, things we're working on, ideas that we have, and also ideas from the community. Because the community is what's going to help us grow this product into what people actually need. Listening to feedback, and that's a big part of our company. We don't want to go out and just build something that we have in our mind. We want to build something that's actually going to help others, that others, based on others' feedback. So George, what do we have working on right now? What's the dev team working on?
So yeah, dev team's got pretty much 3 main focus areas right now. One of those, which is a focus area that we always have going on, is bugs and UI UX updates. So anything that's breaking in the app, it's not working the way we intend to, we're rolling patches through, changes for those things as quickly as possible. And then UI UX updates, anything that's going to either internal feedback or external feedback, anything that's going to make the usability of the platform better and more understandable for a user, whether they've been there for a day or been there for a year. We're always working on those things. One of those is a mobile friendly app. We're really honing in on making sure the mobile version via Safari Chrome browser based is functional and works. And then lastly, filter presets and record queries. So filter presets, Justin will go into the development of those in a little bit here as he's working through a demo app. But one of the biggest things, aside from obviously the usability of the app and making sure it's bug free, is making sure it's fast, it's responsive. You're getting the data that you should be when you're applying filters or trying to grab records from a table. So making sure those things are buttoned up and operating as quickly and as efficiently as possible is one of the big focus points right now. So mobile friendly, bugs and UI UX updates, and then our querying of records.
And on the mobile friendly version, George, I mean, do you want to elaborate a little bit on like what you're going to be able to do mobile as opposed to like desktop wise?
Yeah, so obviously your desktop app is your full, you get the full product, right? You can build apps, you can build tables, fields, build reports, dashboards, so on and so forth, and add records, edit records, update, delete. You can do everything on desktop. For mobile, we're just worried about data entry, right? You can add records, you can view records, you can edit records. That's about it right now. We're not really focused on the development of the app, the development of the platform on mobile. But if you're out and about in the field, as a lot of our customers are, you can enter data and get reliable insights to the business or whatever you're doing out in the field.
So. Awesome. And then, Buildaible is a tool that you can build any solution on. Any application, that a business would need can be developed in Buildaible with, no code, drag and drop, click buttons, add tables, fields, etc. We are going to be incorporating a lot of AI into it in the future where you can talk with the AI and have it develop it for you. The whole goal behind this is we don't want you to have to be a software developer to develop a good solution. We want you to subscribe to Buildaible and utilizing some of the new technologies that are on the market like AI, be able to develop a solution that would be structured accordingly like a software developer had done it. So that's the goal. Now, that being the goal, we also understand that businesses need certain solutions. So most businesses, almost every business out there needs a CRM. What's a CRM? That's a customer relationship manager. It's for you to track your customers, track, the interactions you've had with them, what's going on in your business. So because of that, right now, when you sign up for Buildaible, you start out, it's a blank slate. You don't have an application in your account. You can go ahead and start building an application. But in the next 30 days, we are going to be releasing this is going to be the start of our templates, but our initial template is going to be a templated CRM. That CRM is going to be available for any account. So after you sign up, there's going to be a link within the product from your main dashboard. And actually, I'll go ahead and sign into Buildaible right now, just so everybody kind of has an idea of what of where I'm talking about. So when I go ahead and sign into Buildaible, you're going to see this is our internal Buildaible account that we're actually utilizing, to further develop the product and everything. But directly within, when you first land into Buildaible, this is your main dashboard, and somewhere on this side there's going to be a link that's going to say get your free CRM. Every account will be able to get that. What they'll do is they'll come in, there will be no applications listed here. There will be that link. You click that link, it'll tell you a little bit about the CRM, and then at the click of a button, a CRM is going to be dropped into your account that you can then access, start adding your customers into, adding your team members, and start using it. The cool part about that is it's going to be built just like any other application in Buildaible would be built. So you can further customize that CRM if you'd like to, or it also gives you the idea of what you can build in Buildaible. So the cool part about having a paid Buildaible account is that you get unlimited number of applications. So what we'll be showing off is that, here's a CRM that can be used in Buildaible using Buildable's functionality and features. And then you can go further and build other applications for your business. So maybe you need an application to track payroll, and you don't want to do that within your CRM. So a payroll solution could be developed. Maybe you need a project management solution. Maybe right now you're using another product out there that does project management, and you want to consolidate those services down to using one solution. Buildaible can do that. A project management solution could be developed in Buildaible, and that keeps your employees all kind of operating from one place. But at the same time, it reduces your costs too, because then you're not paying for these other services out there. So that's the goal of Buildaible. Pretty much, I like to say anything you can do with Excel, you can do with Buildaible on steroids. So Buildaible does it to another level of what you could do. So that'll be coming here in probably the next 30 days. We'll be dropping the free CRM, and then along with that, around that time frame, maybe a little after, is when our API is going to come. So that's when advanced developers can start building integrations with their Buildaible applications, so they can integrate with other solutions. In the past, like an example would be maybe something happens in your CRM and you want that to post a message to Slack. that's what the API would be able to be used for, so that it could connect Buildable to other solutions like that. Or maybe you have an invoicing system that you want to push invoices into QuickBooks Online. That API would be able to be used to do that in the very near future. Down the line from that, that would require you to write code to do those integrations, even though we do have the API. Down the line from that, that's where we're going to be incorporating a lot of AI components in it that are going to build these integrations for you just by talking to AI. So again, our goal of Buildable is we want people that aren't software developers to be able to build solutions to run their business without the cost of hiring an outside team and without having to take 6 months to learn, 6 months to a year to learn the product to be able to do that. We're going to be incorporating a lot of those AI features in. I think that's the gist of what we kind of got rolling in the works right now. Now I guess I'm going to dive in and actually start building a solution in here so you all can get an idea of how to develop a solution in here. And the first one that I'm going to build today is going to be something simple that would translate kind of across the board to any business. In a way, it's kind of the start of a CRM, but I'm going to call it a simple contact manager. So a simple contact manager, you would want to track any companies maybe you were in contact with, any contacts at those companies, and then you might want to track, your emails or phone calls or communications that you've had with those companies. So it's just going to be, 3 tables. We'll talk about what tables are as I'm doing this, but it's going to be 3 tables, and that would, in a way, be a start of a CRM. A CRM may have some other functionality, but that's what we'll do on the call today. So within Buildable, if you want to build an application, once you're on your main dashboard here, you can go ahead and click this Build a New App. And right now, what you're going to see pop up is Build It Myself or Build with AI. Again, as I mentioned, we have an AI builder that's going to be coming very soon. As of right now, we have the Build It Myself option. So that's the option that I'm going to start with. In the future, when the AI comes, this is going to be a much more streamlined process that's going to get your app up running in a matter of minutes. So let me go ahead and click into Build Myself. So the first thing, when you first click on to build an application, we want to know, what are you going to call that app? So for this demo, I'll just call it Simple Contact Manager. And then you have the option to throw in an app description. So since today is our first office hours, I'm going to call it first office hours 4/3/25 to have a description in there. And now the last kind of choices that you have here, apologies for the zoom in there. My magic mouse loves to do that at times by itself. You can go ahead and choose a color for the icon and choose an icon for this application. So it's Simple Contact Manager. I'm going to choose a little person right here. And then you go ahead and hit Create Application. Now, when I hit Create App, it's going to create the app that's going to house what we're going to further build. When I do this, it's going to take me to the main dashboard of the application, and now it's going to ask me to add tables. So before I go further in and actually start adding a table, let's explain kind of what tables are. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we want to be able to track for a contact manager. You maybe want to, let's say you're going to a networking event and you meet a few people from, you meet people from different organizations. Well, if you met multiple people that are with the same organization, you're going to want to put them into some contact management system. Well, how would that be tracked? That would be tracked based on tables of data. So the first table that you would create would be the companies. That would be the overall company. It's like a category, a bucket of data. So if we met 2 people at a networking event from the same company, we wouldn't want to enter that company twice into the system. That's what a relational database is built to stop you from having to do, to relate information to each other so you don't have to double enter that information. So we would create a table that would be companies. And for those 2 people, we would only create their company in the system one time. Then outside of that, we would have another table that would be a contacts table. And we would connect those 2 tables together via what's called a relationship. In Buildable, it's called link a record. And we're going to see this, but I'm just giving you kind of the preface of how it's going to work. In that contacts table is where we would enter both contacts, but when we entered both contacts, we would select from a drop-down after we have linked it to the companies table, which company those contacts are linked to. So that way we can add that company to the companies table, create the 2 contacts, and choose that company. that relates it together. That relates those two tables to each other, and it relates that company in this table to the two contacts in the other table. So let's go ahead and start doing this. And as we do this, you'll see what I mean, and we'll recap that. So the first table that I want to build in the system is going to be a companies table. And just like with the developing an app, you can click here and actually select an icon. So we'll select this, and maybe, I don't know, I chose green for my main app color, but maybe for my companies, I want them to be orange. So I'll go ahead and choose that color. And then what is a record named in this table? So the table is called companies. And then when you add companies into that table, each one of those is a record, an individual record within the table. So it's asking, what do I want to call an individual record? Well, it's really, this is pretty easy. It's just, it looks like it'd be complicated, but it's just the singular version of what the table name is. So that would be a company. So let's go ahead, and I can add additional tables from this one modal, but I'm going to go ahead and just hit create table now. And this is going to create that category, that bucket table called companies. So now I can see I'm still in my simple contact manager, and now I have a table here called companies. But if I go over to hit new company, what do I enter? There's nothing for me to enter for this company. So now we started out, we had apps that have tables. Well, now tables have fields. You need fields of information. So we would need something like company name, company email, company phone, description. Those are all individual fields. So that's the next thing that you have to develop once you create a table in the system. To do that, just calling out, this will automatically be turned on when you create a new app, but if you're ever in an app that you are editing and you don't see these little drop downs for you to utilize, that's most likely because you have developer mode turned off. Now, this one's still here, but what you'll notice is these are the only options that I have when developer mode's turned off. If I turn it back on, I have some additional options in there. So just a call out, previous systems that we've used in the past, when you're an administrator in the system, you always have the ability to edit it, and that causes issues sometimes when you're trying to be a user and actually use it. So this is one of the features that we added in the Buildaible, is that you can, if you're an administrator, you can turn on and off the ability to develop the app. So sometimes you just want to be a user. You just want to, use it like you should be using it and not have that development functionality. So that's what this developer toggle is for. If you don't even have that, that's because you're not an administrator of the app. You don't have the ability to customize it. But with that being turned on, I'm going to go ahead and you can hit this drop down right here to do add field. This, you could go into table settings and add a field because there's multiple ways to get there, but we're just going to start off with the drop down on adding a new company here on the form to add a field. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add field. And the first thing that I'm going to add is going to be company name. And Buildaible has a plethora of different type of field options that you can utilize. And we'll probably utilize most of these on the call, but I'm going to go ahead for company name and select text. There are a few other options that you get with this, like show in table home. So that means when I just click on companies, there's a main report on there. And if show in table home is on, that field will be listed in the main table home report. You also have the option to turn on if a field's required. So yeah, I probably would want a company name for every company that's entered in the system. So I would go ahead and choose field required here. And then we have the option for unique value. So if you don't want duplicate company names being entered in the system, you could turn this on, and when you go to enter one that's already been entered in the system, it's going to let you know there's already one entered for that, so it'll stop you from doing that. And then lastly on this, we have the default value. So I wouldn't use this in a company name type, but think of this more in like if you have like a drop down for projects, for instance, or a drop down for customers where it's like new, lead, prospect, actual customer, and you created a drop down, you probably would want that to start at a default value of like new. So that's where you would enter a default value into the system here. I'm not going to do that for this one, but just wanted to kind of cover that. So we're going to go ahead and hit done, and you're going to see that field now pop up on the form here. So there's company name. So now I can type in, whatever I want for company name. Let's go ahead and let's add a couple more fields in a row here so we can get email, phone, and maybe just description. We'll start off with those three additional fields. So I'll hit add field. I had typed something in that field, so it wanted to let me know if I did this, I was discarding my changes. That's why that came up. So next thing, we're going to do phone, and we'll leave that as show in table home. We won't require that. Now, instead of hitting done here and adding just that field, I'm going to hit the plus sign because that's going to take me into adding another field. So it's going to add this phone field, and I got to give it a name here. So company phone. It's going to add this phone field, and then it's going to take me into creating a new field. So this is how you do multiple fields in a row. So now I want to add in company email. And now I'm going to add in the notes. Let's call it notes for this company. And that I'm going to choose paragraph style. So we'll hit done. So now I've got all 4 of those fields on this form. And when you just add fields back to back like that, it builds out the form like this, just in a down the page. But before we go in and actually start adding the other tables and connecting these, let's go ahead and let's customize this form. Let's make it look a little bit better for the end users. So the same place that I went to add a field, right next to add a new company, I can hit the down arrow and I can choose edit form. And this is going to take you into our drag and drop form builder. So that brings you in. Now, one thing I like to do when I come into this, and something we may actually incorporate into the product, is if you notice, I'm gonna hit cancel here. When I'm looking at this form, I don't have this other sidebar over here, as in when I'm customizing it. So when I go into customize, I've got that other sidebar. So one thing I like to do is while I'm customizing the form, I actually collapse this sidebar over here because that shows me exactly how the form's going to look when I save it. So to do that, you can hit the icon up here, and that actually collapses that other sidebar to give you kind of the full view. So this is very simple. You can drag the fields, make them smaller. You can reorder them by dragging them up next to others. And if, for instance, let's say I wanted to have notes over here as a big block in a separate section than these others, you can add a new section in. So that section's down here, so I'm actually going to make this section smaller. I am going to move this section up next to it. And then this notes I'm going to put over here. So to do that, I can hit this and move to another section. But I actually got to give it a name first. So company notes. And now that field is over in this section. So maybe I want the notes to show like that. And I want to move these other fields down below. You can even colorize the sections if you'd like by choosing those colors over here. But for now, let's just leave it at that. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now I'm back on the company's form. My other sidebar is still gone. So to get that back, I just hit up here and hit expand. So now that's what the company's form looks like in the system. As a test, I'm just going to go ahead and add in Buildaible Technologies. We'll add in a random phone number. I can type. And I'm going to go ahead and save this company in the system now. So now I'm back on the companies table, and you can see that company that I just created in the system here. If you ever need to open it back up, you have 2 ways of doing it. Hitting this little icon right here will open up that tab. Close that down. Or if you had multiple records in here and you wanted to open multiple, you could hit this plus sign, and that will open the tab there, which you can then click on and see. So we have now started the application. We have now created a table called companies, and we have created 4 fields for the companies to start tracking information about them. And that took, I don't know, 10 minutes. So now let's further build out the application. So the next thing that I said that we would need for this is we need a contacts table, because maybe you have multiple contacts at this Buildaible Technologies that you want to keep track of in the system. So to do that, we would hit the plus sign up here, and we would call this contacts. Or you could call it something like company contacts. Go ahead and select an icon, and I don't know, maybe we'll choose one like this one, and we'll make it this color green. And this is called a contact. Create table. So now you're going to see that company's contacts pop up on the left-hand side here. And again, we're back to this page to where we need to add some fields to this. To make this very simply, we're going to just add a full name and phone number to them. So if I go up, I'm going to do this a different way this time than what I did last time by going through the actual form. So I'm going to click on the table, hit table settings, and then I'm going to go to the fields options here and hit new fields. First field that I'm going to put in is going to be contact name, text, and then hit the plus sign. And I'm going to say contact phone. And that's going to be the 2 fields that we add. So those fields have now been added. Some of these errors, I'm actually happy that one of these popped up here and that we have this on the video. Some of these errors that popped up, we're actually working through those. Those are errors that don't really mean anything, that it's just flagging. We're going to be having those cleared up soon. So I'm glad that that popped up there, because that is one thing we're working on in the background. So now let me go back to the company contacts table. And if I hit new contact, I now have the ability to type a contact name in. So let's customize this form real fast and just make it a little bit smaller here. Put these up next to each other and go ahead and save that. So I'm going to go ahead and type in me. And save it. Now, if I go back to companies and open up Buildaible, I don't see Justin anywhere. I go to contacts, close that out, and open up Justin. I don't see that he's attached to Buildaible at all. That's because as of right now, these tables are not related. So we talked about in the beginning, we have to build relationships between these tables. That's where a relational database gets its name. You don't want to have to double enter information. So now we need to connect these tables together. In Buildaible, we call those connections link a record fields. So link a record fields, which we're going to go ahead and create, are how you link 2 tables to each other and link records from one table to a record in another table. To do that, we're going to go ahead and actually we can do it straight through this record. So we're going to open up this record, hit this drop down and hit add field. And we're going to choose link a record. We'll call this field company name. And it's saying now, what table do you want to link values from? Well, the only other table we have in this application right now is this companies table. So we'll go ahead and choose companies. And now it's going to say, what field do you want to look up? So when you build a link a record field, this is going to create a drop down on this table for you to choose something from the other table to link it. In this case, we want to choose the company name. That would make it the easiest. So we'll go ahead and select one of the fields from the company's table, which will, in this case, we'll choose company name, and we'll hit done. So now on this table, I now have the option here to choose one of my companies from the other table over here. And the only one that I have over there right now is Buildaible Technologies. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that and save. Now you will see Buildable Technologies, and cool little thing we're doing here is when it is a link a record field like this, we're showing you the icon from the table that link comes from. So you know that's coming from your company's table. Now, if I open Justin up here, again, I'm just going to see the company name there. But if I actually go back to the company's table here and open up Buildable Technologies, I now see a new report that's been created down here that's auto-created when you link one table to another. It's created on what is called in database architecture the parent table. I know we're getting into some big terms here that are tricky, but we're trying to simplify this. So when you have the ability to choose from another table, so like we can choose on the company contacts the company name, that makes the company's table to company contacts the parent. The company contacts table then becomes the child. So it's a parent-child relationship in this. So when you do this on the parent level, you will have a report that will be auto-created that will show you any of the linked records in the child table. That's why we're now seeing Justin here. And directly from the company record here, you can hit this icon and actually open up that contact and make edits to it if you'd like. We also give you the option on there as well to, if you don't want it open in the modal here, you can hit this button to open the full record, and that will actually take you to that record to make edits to it. Now I'm a super stickler about how forms look, so I know it's just a demo here, but I'm going to edit this form real quick and make the company name pop up next to the person. So let's go ahead and reduce the size of this phone number field. And will that fit in there? Not yet. So let's reduce this down a little bit and move that over. And you can reduce the section sizes as well. So we'll save that. So now that's what that company contact looks like in the system. The last table we're going to build for this demo is we want to be able to track communications that we have with the different contacts in the different companies. If you run a business, I will tell you tracking communications that you have with your customers will save you in the long run. There are so many instances where you need to go back to these communications. And it's also, the cliche saying of, hit by a bus. You don't want somebody from your team only communicating with the customer if something happens with them, if they had if they were sick or something, and that customer needed support. You want to have a central repository where you're seeing this information that you can get to support that customer. We just had this instance actually happen yesterday where one of our employees was out of town and one of our customers needed support, and that employee was the one that worked directly with that customer, and we wanted to be able to see the history that they had with that customer. So you need a central repository to track that information. There's too much information just sitting in people's emails, text messages, Slack. That information needs to be in a central repository that you can see. So to do that, we're going to add one more table to the solution. It's going to be called an interactions table. And this one's going to be a little fun because we're going to add a couple different fields that we haven't added yet. So let's go ahead and let's add this new table, and we'll call it interactions. A single record is called a interaction. And for this, I don't know, let's choose what's a fun icon to choose here. How about this one? Looks like your email in them. And let's give it a different color. Let's make it green. Green is good interactions. Let's not put bad juju on it by making it red. So let's go ahead and create this table. And another cool thing to show you here is when you log into an application, the table's on the left-hand side. This is based on the user preference. You can drag and drop the tables, and based on the user that logs into the system, they can customize it themselves. This is great for teams that maybe you have a solution in here where you've got customer relationship managers that work directly with customers, but then maybe you have your billing team in there that does invoicing. And maybe your billing team, they want to put their priority tables of like invoices, purchase orders, things like that up at the top, but your customer relationship team wants to put, companies, contacts, and interactions at the top because those are the main tables that they focus on. So that giving you that flexibility to kind of move it around. I know it seems basic, but I have a Lean Six Sigma background, and quicker clicks, quicker action to stuff saves time. And you extrapolate that out across the course of a year. Maybe it only saves you a few seconds each time, but across the course of the year, that can save you minutes and hours. just by being able to get things quicker. So those are the type of thought processes that we have around how we're developing this with Buildable. So now in the interaction, so we need to add a bunch of fields. So I'm going to do this again from the table settings. Go into fields, new fields. So the first thing is I want to say type. So that we're going to make a single select. So what do I mean by type? So type would be like phone call, email, meeting. We'll use those three options for now. So when you do select a single select, that is when you would be able to put in different options. So from here, first option I'm going to put in is going to be phone. And you can choose a color for each of the options. So let's say phone is green, or maybe we'll make that gray. Meetings will be green. So I'm going to add another option here. I'm going to say this is going to be email, and we will make that yellow. And then the last option here, I'm going to say is going to be meeting, and I'm going to make it green. And this is, as I talked about before, if you want to have a default value, this is where you can now choose for this dropdown out of these options that you just created what a default value is. So a lot of our stuff happens with email. So maybe I want email to be the initial default value in there when you go to create one, but you can change that obviously. I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus sign here to create the additional fields that we need. So let's go ahead and let's add a date field. So when was this interaction? Now we do have, I am going to add a time field too, and we do have date time fields, but sometimes I like to separate them out. So I'm actually going to create a date field and a time field separately. We'll make this required. I probably should have made the other ones required, but that's okay. We can go back to those, do those after. I'm going to hit the plus sign here, and now we're going to add in a time. And we'll create a meeting notes field, which would be a paragraph. And then I'm going to add another paragraph field that's got, I'm going to say action items. So maybe you were on the call, you tracked the meeting notes, but then maybe there are certain action items that you want to do after it. So we'll create that as a paragraph field as well. Okay, so let's go into interactions and let's look at one thing and see if we're missing anything. So I went to hit new interaction. Email is auto selected because we put that in as a default value. Date is, there's nothing in there. It's just for me to fill out. Time, meeting notes, action items. Cool. Problem is, who do we have this with? We need to be able to link this to a company and to a company contact. Or you can just link it directly to a company contact and see the company. And we'll do that, and I'll show you a way of doing that without actually having to link it to both companies. However, in this instance, as a software developer, I probably would suggest you do link it to both tables, so that way you see all the interactions underneath the company and all of them underneath the contacts as well. But we're just going to do it to the company contacts to show another feature of what Buildable has in here. So go ahead and hit this drop down now and hit add field. And I am going to have to build a link a record field. So we'll say who the contact is. And we will create a link a record. And the table that we want to link it to is going to be the company contacts table. And I would like to look up the contact name. So go ahead and hit done. So now I can choose Justin from that other table and bring him in. Let's customize this form real quick to clean it up a little bit. Put this down another row. And I'm doing that for a specific reason that we will look at here in just a sec. Okay, so now on our form, because we've created this link a record field, we can choose a customer. But here's one problem. When I look at these interactions, I don't want to have to go back to the contact to see what company they're from. Or I may even want to see their phone number directly here on this interaction record without having to go and look at that contact. So there's an additional field. I mean, there are multiple other fields, but there's an additional field we didn't talk about with relationships. So we created the link a record fields to relate them, and that allows you to choose from one of the other tables. But if you want to see other information about the option you choose brought down from its table that it's in, like I want to see this contact phone number, there are additional fields that we have in here called lookup fields. Those are in relational database setups. And again, that's to stop you from having to duplicate data in the system. So let's go ahead and create a lookup field, and we'll talk about exactly what that means. So if I hit the drop down here and hit add field, discard these changes, I'm going to select lookup. And I'm going to call this contact phone. So what primary field do I want to look up? This is what link a record field is. So we only have one on this table. So that's this contact field that you see in the background here. So it's saying, oh, I want to go based off of this relationship that we have, and I want to look up that contact's phone number. So I am choosing, base it off of this field right here we see in the background, and I want to see the contact phone. So I'll hit done. So now that field is down here. I'm going to add in one more lookup field, then we're going to customize this form. And we're going to make this the contact's company name. We want to pull down their company name. So we'll go ahead and hit contact company. I got to give it a name before I save it, so we'll call it contact company. Now, before I show that off, I'm going to customize the form real quick, and we are going to make this contact smaller. We're going to move the contact phone up. Got to reduce the size first. And we are going to move the company contact up as well. And reduce the size out a little bit. Actually make this one a little bit bigger. Just for, normally I would put these in other sections, but for the demo purposes, I just want to do this real quick. Actually move the company right there and the contact phone right there. We'll go ahead and save this. So now that we've created these lookup fields, you can see I have contact, that's the link a record, and then I've got contact company, contact phone here. Those are lookup fields. So that means when I choose Justin, it's now pulling in which company is selected on his contact profile and what his phone number is. So that is what lookup fields do. Once you build a link a record field, you can then build lookup fields off of that link a record field. So that way that information translates down from the table where it's entered to the other tables where it's connected. So the other thing that I want to show before we kind of finish up here for the day is I want to set a default value for these date fields. So if I go back into table settings, fields, you can go back into your fields list and you can edit those fields. So maybe I want this to default to current date instead. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, save it. And now when I go back to the interactions table and create a new interaction, now it's already got the current date in there. So I don't have to enter that. Now I can change that if I want, flip it to something else, but that'll save you time from having to do that, every time you log into a contact record if you're entering them for the current date. Let's go ahead and just choose a time. We'll just say today, this time, contact Justin Lapier. It was a great first office hours. Think of a good demo for next week's. So we'll go ahead and save that. So the last thing I want to just show off is now, if I go back to the company contacts table, you will see, if I open that contact, that interaction that I just created down below there. And that's how easy it is to build an application in Buildaible. And that's with our current setup of, building it yourself, clicking no code development. In the future, it's going to be so much more easier when you're just talking to AI. Build it. We'll still have the ability for you to click around and build fields and build a system, but if you don't have time, or if you want to get something up to speed pretty quick, or can't really formulate how you want things connected, what all you may need, what all fields you may need, our AI will be able to do that for you in the future. So that's the gist. That's the first office hours, and I hope that as we continue these, we'll have more customers joining in, more customers asking questions, and yeah, we'll continue this every Thursday at 2 p.m.
Great job.
Thanks. Let me.
Yeah, this was awesome. Very helpful, actually.
Yeah, that was a good first one. That'll get us rolling. I'm still kind of recording right now because whatever, transparency. We'll keep this going and stuff. But I'm just looking forward to others joining questions, and yeah, this is going to be fun going forward.
Yeah, I do think this will be really helpful